And Dr. Jafar Qureshi Saab is our family friend, and it's an honor. That's why I've been chosen to introduce Dr. Saab to the group. We are honored to have Dr. Jafar Qureshi Saab. He's from the UK, and he belongs to a reputed family of like from Hyderabad. His respected father, mashallah, he was a very senior civil officer, civil services officer in Hyderabad, and he became a close advisor to the Nizam of Hyderabad later on. Dr. Jafar Qureshi, he moved to the UK in maybe more than 40 years ago. And then, mashallah, since then, he has been very active in like all my kind of social activities, especially which relates to like Muslim voices in not only in the UK or Europe, but in different parts of the world, mashallah. And he has been active in various social causes, not only in UK, like in different countries also. And he's a trustee of Al Khair. There's a long list actually. Some of the points I'll mention here. He's a trustee of Al Khair Foundation and Ikra TV UK. He has also served as a director and trustee of Muslim Aid UK Sweden, and currently he is also as the director of Muslim Aid India. And apart from that, he is the director of Al Fos Charitable Trust, and then he is also apart from that, he is also he's been for international advisor to MESCO Hyderabad. It's a charity foundation. He's the director and trustee of Zakat Foundation India International, which is headquartered in the UK. And then apart from that, he has helped in different Muslim countries, the governments of Muslim countries, in setting up a lot of Muslim related activities there. He has worked in the Bosnia Herzegovina. He organized a trip to war-torn region of Wilsal Iqbal there. And then Gujarat earthquake also, he was very active in providing the medical relief, and he personally visited the disaster zone there also. In Turkey also, after a major earthquake, he was very active there. Then he is also known in Gaza and Palestine, where he was central for the Muslim Aid delegation. And then he has coordinated between the Egyptian government, British government, sometimes the Turkish government, and different governments in the world. And mashallah, he's currently based in the UK and very active socially, and he's always eager to benefit the Muslim youth all over the world with his knowledge and his experience. And I'm sure today's session, inshallah, is going to help all the listeners, inshallah, all the audience very well, inshallah. So I most humbly welcome Dr. Saab to please start the narrative.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nuhammidu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. It's a great honor to address an audience of people who are, alhamdulillah, sahib fikr and also of high knowledge. I have been in UK for the last 51 years, and somehow I've been catapulted or thrown into limelight by fate of nature of circumstances. Otherwise, I was a quiet doctor serving my own self, my family. But what brought me to the forefront was the publication of Satanic Verses that led to campaign against the publishers. And then we formed an organization in London called MCB, Muslim Council of Britain. And that began active life involved in the community welfare. We won a lot of battles. We didn't win all. But over the last 6 years, as I'm sure my respected colleague will be talking later about situation in India, got to a point where I felt that, okay, I've done so little or so much for Bosnia, Gaza, everywhere. What have I done to help people of my own country where I was born and brought up? I was born in independent Hyderabad in 1945, which was annexed by India in 1948. And we have struggled to maintain our own dignity in Hyderabad by the changes that have occurred politically over the last so many decades. But what has happened in the last 6 to 8, 10 years has been a big shock to my system. But unlike somebody else, we are all looking at the symptoms of what is happening in India today because of the Sangh Parivar demonizing, belittling us, and defining us as the other, as we did in Europe. We were the other, like the Jewish people were the other during Second World War. Before they put in gas chambers, there was a thing called othering was done to them. So in India, we are large in numbers, but very weak organizationally and very weak educationally. I studied for some time the root causes of this uh, phenomenon as to what has happened, this poison that has been injected into our body politics in India today, whereby it is okay to hate Muslim, where public has developed a narrative that we are the other and we are scorned upon. And this hasn't happened when I was young. When I was in medical school in 1960s, I remember myself organizing talks by Swami Vivekananda, Math, and of course, taking part in Holi, Diwali, and of course, being completely at ease and learning Shastriya Sangeet and shlokas. I was completely part of an Indian fabric and its civilization. But I never felt that I'm doing it because I'm a Muslim or a Hindu or a Christian. It's part of our culture. But what has happened is we haven't studied our own history. I'll talk for 20 minutes, then Zahir Bhai will explain the reason how we can remedy this. When British came to India, they have come there to do trade. East India Company was set up in the year 1700 at the court of Jahangir. When the first British ambassador went, he was completely bedazzled by the grandeur of the Mughal courts. He writes, the glitter of diamond was so much that it outshone the chandeliers. So that was the Mughal Empire. And of course, I'm a great admirer of the work of Shashi Tharoor, who has written in the book published recently, The Era of Darkness, some remarkable insight into what was the British mission in India. Now, from being empire builders, we began to be called as invaders. So British narrative of history of India began in Calcutta, in Fort William College, before they even set foot in Awadh and in Delhi and the rest of India. They looked at India as a country which has been largely Hindu but ruled by Muslims. Here was an opportunity for them. I can give you historical books, quotation from them. Inshallah, this discussion will turn into an article which I'll share with you. And they began to study. And these Britishers, and like the Portuguese and the French, the whole world was colonized by the European colonizers. British outbid French to occupy India, other than small pockets in Pondicherry, Puducherry, and in Goa. India was taken over by British, and they began to doctor the history to paint a narrative in which we were the other and we were called as invaders, a word which never occurred to my Hindu brethren with whom we fought wars. And they painted a narrative that we were there to spoil, loot, subjugate Hindus, murder them, rape them. Not many people know facts that I've studied, that before the destruction of Somnath temple, before 1120, when Somnath temple was invaded by Muhammad Ghaznavi, at least 6 or 7 times, a century before that, the Kalhana kings of Kashmir, who were middle caste Hindus, have destroyed the temple many a time. No historian will record that Somnath temple was destroyed by Hindus, much before Ghaznavi. Secondly, in Calcutta, there was a music conference. I just want to give some example of how the hatred began to be sown in the mind of the majority that Muslims are alien, they are invaders, they have spoiled Indian culture, they have raped and they've destroyed. Even in a subject like music, I was astounded to read a book, which I would like, I know because I'm a bit into music, this book is 2 Men in Their Music. Now, in this, a lady called Janaki Bhakle, a Maharashtrian scholar in the University of Columbia, says that the British musicologist E. Clements sat down with some Hindu scholars and asked them, your music, Shastriya Sangeet, North Indian particularly, is largely the great maestros are all Muslim. How come is it that you have no Hindu musicians? So this gentleman said, Mr. Paluskar, because they are the best of the singers. They have created a system of music called North Indian classical music by Amir Khusro, was a Turk. His mother was a Brahmin convert, and he studied music, combined the music of South, Carnatic music, with North, and gave it a new format. Raga, Ragni like Bahar, Adana, Basant, Mia Malhar. So the whole genre of music was generated by Muslims. But this E. Clement had a problem with that. He said to this Bhatkande, and Clement said to Bhatkande and Paluskar, how come? Because this is a Hindu music. So this chap was, A. Clement said to these two maestros, why don't you take it back? It's your music. Then he wrote a book, which is still available in the market. And to write that book, he consulted 7 great ustads of music, Haddu Khan, Hassu Khan, Falah Khan, and he came up with this music and he gave it a title, The Scales of Hindu Music. It just shows the mindset of these people. Every subject was studied to take away from the subject any influence of Muslims in Islam. That happened till a time where Indian and Muslim began to polarize from each other, eventually leading to. Again, similarly, I've got an article to send you. Maratha army that Shivaji led, his personal bodyguard was a Muslim. He built a mosque in his palace. 30% of his army was led by gunners from Turkish background. There were never wars between Marathas and Mughals, not Hindu-Muslim wars. There were war between two empires, Maratha Empire and Mughal Empire. And in Mughal army, there were more than 50% non-Muslims. The British completely and totally ignored this. They made it into black and white. Well, you can see a film like Jodha Akbar, in which there's some balance. So this was demonization because they wanted to get control of India. Muslims were in power in Awadh, in Calcutta, and of course in Hyderabad, in South. Everywhere they were fighting Muslim. And Muslims were not fighting alone. Muslims were fighting along with their Hindu brethren. Most war that were fought against British were not Muslim versus British. They were fought by Indians of all faiths against the British Raj. But this poison has already begun to seep in to literature, into culture, into music. Recently, one woman wrote an article on Indian music. And when she said that the classical music of India has come into India through invaders, believe you me, I can send you the quotation. 70 people wrote objection to this word invaders, that is Muslim, and she was told to shut up. So this is the poison that goes back at least 200 years. Now, but the last episode I want to mention before I move on to facts and figures is Governor of Bombay was talking to no other person than Lokmanya Gangadhar Tilak. And he asked him, Mr. Tilak, who are your heroes? Mr. Tilak said, and he's the governor of Bombay. Oh, we have great people in India. Kabir wrote this. Amir Khusro. He said we had heroes like Jhansi Ki Rani. We have heroes like Akbar. And of course, we had before Mughals. He said, Mr. Tilak, how come all your heroes are Muslims? Can you see the mind of the white man, British? How come? Oh, no, we also have Shivaji. Oh, that's good. At least one Hindu hero. So you can see how they corrupted innocent Hindu minds. Now that was taken up by RSS. I was reading recently the biography of Damodar Savarkar. He tried to change the narrative. And he was helped by a guy whose book I read, P. and Oak. My age group will know him. He used to write articles in the Organizer in which he will say Qutub Minar is built by Hindus. Recently, a BJP leader said, oh, these Muslims know how to go and put their own nameplate on the things we have built, like Taj Mahal, his Tej Mandir. So they took the distortion of history to be an art. And today, why India is suffering so much is that concocted history, the history that was poisoned by the British, were taken up like, sort of a crude example. British threw up a lot of phlegm, and these twisted Hindutva people took it as a perfume, began to rub on their body. This is the depth of the depravity of the colonizers. So why then British were so, no, not just British. What did French do? Only a month ago, Macron apologized for their atrocities in Algeria. Why? It is because of two incidences. I'm trying to make it very broad-based. One is Ottoman Empire. We literally knocked off Vienna, half of Spain, and 80% of Spain was a Muslim principality. The finest civilization in Europe during their dark ages was in Spain, where, according to Abba Iban, the foreign minister of Israel, in his biography it states, and I have been to Toledo, I hope every one of you visits Spain, 50 kilometers from the capital Madrid, there's a city called Toledo, which was regarded in 11th century as the beacon of civilization, where Muslim scholars debated with Christian scholars and Jewish scholars and wrote some of the finest literature of all time. And Abba Iban, the foreign minister of, just Google and find out, says the greatest period of Jewish renaissance and development was in the time of Muslim rule of Spain in 11th to 12th century. So we were the leaders of the world. We were the pioneers of craft and science. But what happens? Like all empires, we are overtaken by hostile forces. Isabel Fernandez in 1492 expels them, Reconquista. Please read the book by Professor Akbar Ahmed, History of Islam in Europe. Vitally important. I'll send you all the references. Suddenly, Europe was reconquered. Ottoman Empire existed as the most glorious empire right up to 18th century. Then it began to decline. The decline did not come because of, if I can use the word, non-Muslim, the kuffar, the decline set in because of our own inaptitude. Jamaluddin Afghani, the great scholar, visited Ottoman Empire in 1790, and he wrote, Ottoman Empire is going to decline because they have lost the zest of life and knowledge. The moment you abandon knowledge, you lose. Europe began to learn. They learned the only textbook of medicine taught in the whole of Europe from 13th century to 17th century was Canon of Medicine by Ibn Sina, called Khanun fi Tib. So, being a civilization of extraordinary dimension, we declined. And this was the time when colonial empire, crusades were united forces of all Europe were roundly defeated by Salahuddin Ayyubi. They have never forgiven us for that. Even today, you go down I was on the road the other day with my son Aman. We saw a pub. Pub is called Saracen's Head, Saracen Muslim's Head. The pub is in Birmingham. When they came back from crusade, they will bring a trophy, like a trophy, a chopped off head of a Muslim, and they called him Saracen. So the historical enmity of crusade and Ottoman Empire nearly overtaking them frightened them so much they developed navy, they developed they became good seafarers, they went and colonized the whole world. As we were going down, they were coming up. But in India, our civilization lasted 800 years, but we must have done something wrong. We have done wrong. We did not engage with the majority community in a sustained and civilized manner. Now, they are now settling scores. But the historical distortion is where I come to my original topic, was shown at the time from 1700, 1800, by the time Andaman prison were hosting Savarkar, they felt that the only way to keep the Hindutva together is to develop a narrative which paints us as the other, the enemy, and for that they needed to create a history, and British helped them to do that. Now, how to manage this hatred that we are experiencing? Sometimes I'm a little bit of a poet. I feel that the intensity of the hate that is being thrown at us for the last 6 years, particularly, can only be countered by sustained effort and also with a bit of humility. We are suffering, no doubt, but I think we are architect of our own suffering. If you look at the figure, I was talking to Nisar Ahmad Saab, a great gentleman from Bangalore. He told me in 222 officers of IPS rank in Karnataka, there are only 2 Muslim. Who are responsible for them? Are Hindus telling us not to study? No. The most brilliant of the most talented of you people are not living in India. When Modi hosted a show in Houston, my nephew was there. He was telling me the Hindus that attended that, drunk with the madura of Hindutva hatred. 98% were sampled, and 98% of these Hindus in Houston said they have never been to India, they never have any desire to visit India, but they will give their life to defend Hindu Rashtra. How many of us as Muslims who have left India, and minority people and good people amongst Hindu community, will have that spirit? Now, what has it done? Now, as a psychiatrist, I feel for the last 10, 20 years since Babri Masjid, there have been extraordinary effort by World Finance, which got a big shock after the market crash. After the market crash of 2008, they wanted to find somebody to blame it on. Oil prices, this prices. We don't have that much of a genius to control the world market. But you see, they are good at, once there's a beautiful verse in Urdu, I'm sure you all know on Urdu. Night mein, raat mein qatl hua, raat mein kisi ka qatl hua, रात में कत्ल हुआ किसी का, सुबह जब हुई तो मुजरिम हम ही गिरदाने गए. I was killed, but I was then declared as a murderer. पहलू खान मरा, लेकिन उसकी लाश का पता नहीं. Pehlu Khan killed himself. So agar aap is narrative ka victim hai, what is the cause of it? Though I'm trying to give you a sample of historical narrative. Now, if you want to undo 200 years of narrative that has brought you where you are today, as intelligent people who are living abroad, you at least have some space to think. People in India, especially in Bangalore, Darbhanga, Faridabad, in North India, don't have time to think. For them, the whole thing is an existential threat. They live day to day. They haven't got an idea what's going to happen to them day after tomorrow. So unless we create in diaspora structures that are based on sound knowledge, sound principles, and also to recover our lost pride, that can only happen if people like us inject in India by any means possible, educating our fellow brethren, also helping non-Muslims in wherever you can. Alhamdulillah, one of my best students in India today is a Hindu girl. And many, I've trained them. So you need to have a package, and Zahir Bhai will perhaps take over from me and talk about it. Then we'll take a question answer. So unless you go into the root causes of what is this poison come from. So crusade, or Ottoman, fear of Ottoman, then they got a chance to colonize the Islamic world. Dutch conquered Indonesia, France conquered North Africa. Every Muslim land was conquered by somebody. Can you imagine? British had the vastest empire. They had more Muslims in their empire at one time than they had Christians in their empire. Whole of India was theirs. Malaysia, whole of Hijaz, whole of Saudi Arabia. And they fought out the Ottomans. Now today, if Turkey is trying to flex its muscles, see, then people say, Turkey is creating problem for Muslim. But you must understand historical perspective. The British that reoccupied Hijaz in Saudi Arabia, and with the help of some treacherous Arabs, now you can see what's happening in some parts of the Arab world, with a better relation with Tel Aviv than they have with their own Muslim brethren states. It's a very sensitive subject. I don't want to go into that. Unless you unite some way the leaders of Ummah community, that will take time. I'm very mindful that we have 56 Muslim countries, but put together there are 56 big zeros. And I've said this to when I was a member of OIC delegation in Cairo, in Qatar. I said this to Hamid Al-Ghabid, president of OIC, then I should rename OIC as Organization of Important Countries. So that is the state of our Ummah. But you are the hope of the Ummah. But we need to have a policy, and through Quorum and your efforts in Oman and some other countries, we hope we can put forward a positive narrative, develop links with education stuff. How many PhDs we produce, which are world class? Of course, there are good people in London that I know, or America, or doing research in COVID viruses. Some of them are from India, but we need much more. Our boys and girls to go to Oxford, Cambridge, MIT is the way forward, inshallah. But I think more detail will go with Zahir Bhai. Zahir Bhai, are you listening, Zahir Bhai? Zahir? Naveed Bhai? Naveed? Aman? Faizi?
Zahir Bhai is not yet joined. Maybe Faizi Saab is there. I'll just unmute Faizi Bhai.
Well, I want to give a break.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about the solution. I've already hinted upon it, but I would like to have some feedback as to how does this topic, does it explain why I wanted to mention the root cause, how did the poison came to be? Who injected the poison in our body in India? Was my narrative. So please feel free to ask me any question. Zahir Bhai may join, or I'll take the second part myself. And I'm going to publish this article, and I'll gift it to Omani group, inshallah.
Inshallah, that's wonderful. So just give us a couple of minutes. There are some other people joining.
Mr. Bashir,
Yeah.
is that you, Zahir?
Yes.
Yeah,
me.
okay.
Zahir bhai, assalamu alaikum.
Alex Ram.
Did you hear my talk a bit?
Yeah, I did. I listened to it entirely.
May Allah bless you, sir. You are our great hope of Korean. You have to give us some solution, way forward. I talked about I began to give it historical perspective. I hope it made, because I always judge my narrative with your approval. I hope it was okay.
Well, I don't totally agree. I have a different perspective. So
yes,
for debate, we should have maybe another perspective as well.
Please do. That's what you're here. You please tell us.
I mean, you have pinned all the blame exclusively on the British and underplayed our own mistakes.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Okay, but let me also say
yes,
the things that we have done, which have led to this. Historically, now it's beyond our control what happened in 10th century, 11th century in India. Mahmud of Ghazni and Aurangzeb are two figures the Hindus resent most.
Correct.
And Ghazni's, I mean, it's not just the British who made that up. Al-Baruni, who was a contemporary, the Islamic scholar, who came from the same place as Mahmud of Ghazni, he wrote a book, the first history book of India in 1025 AD, which is called Tariq-e-Hind. And in that, he condemns Ghaznavi's actions, which he said ruins the prosperity of India. That was written in 1025 AD by a Muslim scholar who was a contemporary of Ghaznavi, came from the same area. And so it's not the British. I mean, that this part we have also, we means Muslim 1,000 years ago. I cannot be held responsible for that. You and I cannot be held responsible for that. Then, of course, there was Aurangzeb, and you have many Muslims who glorify him. Right? He is seen as somebody who oppressed the Hindus. Now we may say that he sewed the cap and was pious, etc. But ultimately, it's not what we say; it's what they feel that counts. So there's no smoke without fire. So that those are also causes for resentment, and we don't accept openly that some people might have done things wrong in the past. We defend those people. We go out of our way to defend them. So all that creates resentment and enmity. So it's not just the British, it's us as well. Then, of course, in 1947, or between 1900 to 1947, we opted for, we means not the Indian Muslims were left over, but many opted for Jinnah over Maulana Azad. They followed that, the two-nation theory, and it ended up dividing the Muslims into three. We lost our intelligentsia, they migrated to Karachi, which weakened us. So now Muslims became divided into 2 countries and 3 countries eventually. So you cannot blame the British for that. It is us. Where if we had heeded what Maulana Azad wrote, that this will lead to the weakening of the Indian Muslims, we'll be the biggest losers. He has written that in his book, India Wins Partition. But we, means a certain section of Muslims, followed that. And a certain set of Muslims who followed Jinnah got left behind in India. I know personally people like that from the north. When Jinnah left, Maulana Azad wrote, he told the Muslims left behind in India, now you stay behind in India and support India. So Muslims divided themselves, and you cannot blame the British for that. Also, the Muslims and Hindus, they supported the British. The Nizam of Hyderabad joined the Marathas and the British to defeat Tipu. So the British played one off against the other. It was not just Muslims they were against. They just exploited the situation. In 1857, when the Muslims and Hindus fought together, you know what the British did? They brought in Sikh troops to quell the two. And Khushwant Singh wrote, the British they could always find some Indian to use against the other. Yes, they were cynical, clever, but it was not just, it was opportunistic. After about 1870, after Congress became a force, they started supporting Muslim League. Pakistan was created because of that. So they favored the Muslims. If you speak to a Pakistani, he thinks creation of Pakistan saved the Muslims. And who can he thank? He has to thank the British for that. So the role of the British is not the key factor. It is our own problem. We divided ourselves and we are paying the price for that. The only thing we can think of is what can we do to avoid such divisions. Now, in post-independence India, India chose to be a secular democracy, but Muslims never showed full commitment to it. They were always going along with it, but they had no full commitment to it. We became, the Congress used Muslims, especially the mullahs, giving nothing to the Muslims, but just pampering these clerical class. And eventually that created a reaction. And the Shah Banu case, it was a turning point, which Advani turned it into a case that Indian secularism was pseudo-secularism. Because the Shah Banu, Rajiv Gandhi overturned the Supreme Court judgment saying this is Muslim personal law. And Muslims did not realize what would be the consequence. Advani turned that into claiming that Indian secularism is pseudo-secularism. The minorities are being pampered. And he made secularism a dirty word in the mind of the Hindus. And Muslims are responsible for this, Congress and Muslims. Another factor that has led to the communalization of the Hindus is actually, ironically, it was actually the migration of Indians to the Gulf for jobs. And there, the Hindus came in contact with countries which were Islamic, which did not allow them certain freedoms. Muslims could go to the mosque and be part of the culture. But Hindus, especially in Saudi Arabia, they were always made to feel that they are second class. They're not citizens, they're second class workers. For example, in Saudi Arabia, I was there, they used to have a ID card. And for Muslims, it was green, whichever country they came from. Whether they're from India, Pakistan, Philippines, or wherever. Hindus, they had a different color ID card, brown, to identify them. So all these things made Hindus feel, we should have our own country and assert ourselves. They assert themselves, they're Muslim. So we should also assert ourselves where we are majority, Hindu. We may not be aware of these things, but this is how it happens. Now, what is the solution? Ultimately, we need English education. Sir Syed realized that, whether we like the British or not, finally we have to learn English. That's the only way we can be competitive. What happened was after 1857, one generation of Muslims refused to learn English because they were angry with the British. British had taken away Muslim power, so they boycotted English language. And as a result, what happened is the Hindus advanced over the Muslims. They got all the civil service jobs and the government jobs in the period 1857 to 1900. Muslims, one or two generations lost on the English language. They did not realize that this will become the language of rule. So they got left behind. So, but now at least we should realize that we have to, one, have education in English. We need to support secular democracy and not take it as something opportunistically. Inside we are Islamic supremacist, and but you want them, the Hindus, to be secular. But I noticed that the students of Jamia Millia and the women, they led the CAA movement. They have shown a commitment to constitution and secularism. So I see that as a wind of change, and we should be following that model as well, supporting and strengthening secularism and democracy. That's the only way Muslims can, and in fact, India can survive. So we work to combat fascism by showing commitment to secularism and democracy. We have to do it discreetly. We need the Hindus and the Christians and the Sikhs to be on our side. And in fact, in the CA, the way the Muslims handled that brought the Hindus and Sikhs and others to our side. And we, living outside, should follow that model.
Thereby, can you also, because you've got only 20 minutes left, well, how much time do we have left, Faiz?
Sorry?
How much time do
So
we have?
we have 20 minutes to go. After that, question and answer session.
I am very mindful of the time factor. Thereby, thank you very much. I think I did not have time to go into what British did. Muslim failed. They failed to understand the plot of the British. The power was taken. We lost it because of our ignorance, because of our as I mentioned, we lost it because we were, until Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, we shunned knowledge. Jamaluddin Afghani told Ottoman Empire, you will decline if you don't acquire knowledge. We do now. But what I want to ask our host is, do we, after hearing me and Zahir Bhai, we have our, mashallah, a lot of opinions. How do you think we can move forward? And what is the role of diaspora? This subject we are discussing with Amirullah Khan Sahab next week, inshallah. I hope you all join us. What is the role of diaspora? How we engage to change the narrative that is being, the poison that is there today in India is seeping, cruel and grotesque. How do you deal with this, Zahir Bhai?
I mean, two things we have to do. One is we have to expose to others that the RSS stands for Nazism, and the ideology is that. And we have to bring that to the attention of the Arabs. Some people are slowly realizing that, the Western media, etc. Second is we have to move along the lines of the students and the Shaheen Bagh women, stand for secular democracy, and forego showing Islamic supremacy. We have a problem in Kashmir, right? That has also affected us, and we don't realize that. Hindus have grievances against us. We have to address them. And I don't see any Muslim has addressed that. They have grievance over Kashmir. They have grievance over Kashmiri Pandits. They have grievance over the history. But have any of us addressed that? We haven't. We don't want to talk about it.
Please, the host, the mashallah, you are hugely connected people. What is the way forward? What can diaspora do to remedy and bring the two communities in India together? Because we have people amongst, like, some of the bitterest critique of Hindutva, the Gauri Lankesh murder and beyond shows that we Muslim are not paying. The 170 people died in defense of freedom in India. People who stood up for people like Gauri Lankesh. Out of 170 that died to defend freedom of India, only one Muslim. So don't ever presume that all the Hindus are one single block. They don't all hate us. Tejaswari and people like Amit Shah are foreign, but they've got upper hand at present. They have it. Can we recover? I would like to hear from the host. Way forward.
I have a comment here. Somebody saying we are Islamic supremacists.
No, nobody said that here.
Now I have a written comment here from someone.
No, there's nothing. The word is an oxymoron. There's nothing like Islam. If you're a Muslim, you cannot be a supremacist. No, you cannot be. It's a contradiction.
Okay, we may think that, but if the other side feels that, they have a feeling we are doing jihad against them, right? In Kashmir. So how we have, yeah, you may not feel it, but if they feel it, you have to address that.
I agree with you there, bhai. I deal with paranoid people all the time as a psychiatrist. They don't have to be rational paranoid. If there is
so how do you address that in psychology?
If that grades of paranoia, if some people are amenable to persuasion through logic, through personal relations. I know one very bitter chap against me. Now he's my friend. So it's a question of how you relate to them, and we need to. I agree with you. The need for education. We don't have a single channel to educate people amongst the unity of India. There's a great subject. People talk about starting another Islamic channel. I'm against it. We need a Muslim-owned NDTV. Now, I would like to hear from our host. Any fresh ideas, please tell us now. We both of us talk too much.
Okay, so we have to follow secular democratic principles like the people in India have done, like the Muslims in India have done. So to create an NDTV channel, first of all, why is it we are not able to create a channel?
No, look, let's talk about it some other time. What I'm saying is, we need to bridge the divide. I agree with you. How do we do it? Is multi-level, multiple player. Let's do it. And we're doing it, alhamdulillah. Some of the best proponent of Hindu-Muslim unity are not Muslims.
Right, but
look,
we need to bridge it by, okay, Dr. Saab, we need to bridge it by addressing their grievances or their perceptions.
And different for us.
Okay, but if you're not even aware of their grievances, how will you address it? So you have to be aware and admit they have grievances, and we have to address it.
You can never address the grievances of Misha. Never. Forget it. Now, there are majority of Hindus are normal people, 60 to 70%. They can be persuadable.
Right. So we have to address them.
There are hardcore Muslim, hardcore Hindus. I'm not here to convince Ram Madhav. He blatantly lied on Hard Talk. I hope you all have watched that Hard Talk. And Stephen Sacker exposed that chap. But he was completely, he's a nutcase. I mean, I wish I could treat him. He's such a rabidly anti-Islam. You forget those people, but there are vast majority people are non-committed. People in Oman, in Doha, in UK. So one of my best friends is Vinod Kumar and Bhatnagar. So let's talk more to them and more of them.
Yeah, we need to have two-pronged strategy. One is the middle people. We have to address their grievances and bring us close together. But at the same time, you have to be tough and show them that if they do this kind of thing, there'll be a business cost to them. There'll be an economic cost.
I agree with you.
And that has happened. For example, these people who tweeted in the UAE, they were deported.
Yeah.
It had an economic impact. So we have to lobby for that as well.
Alhamdulillah,
economic cost.
In Middle East, there is a big change led by Hinda Faisal Al-Qasimi. I would like the Gulf people to tell us about what role they have to play and we together can play. Please, I want to hear from them. Both of us have had our time. Please. Yeah, can I hear from you, Oman? Anyone? Hello? Shahjahan Saab? Shahjahan Saab? Faizi?
Dr. Saab, assalamu alaikum. Doctor, there are a few Assalamu alaikum. Hello. A few questions are being asked, Dr. Saab, a few questions are being raised in the chat. If you can refer to those, please.
There is a comment in the chat box. One Mr. Shasha Wali is saying, I have an idea. Can we have a platform who can expose those drastic incidents in India? Dr. Saab, we cannot hear your voice. Magdum bhai, can you please? Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, we can hear your voice.
Yeah, we have mobilized the world opinion against hate crimes in India. And alhamdulillah, to a point, because we have been late in waking up. But again, to mobilize hate opinion against hate crimes in India, and we have done so without resources, much resources. Few of us have mobilized European Commission, British Parliament, Human Rights Watch, American Freedom Watch. These are the forums which especially people in Middle East can help us. And one guy, Mazhar Farooqi, has given information about, even today, he gave information about what's happening in GCC. But we need resources. We need information, we need resources. But your brethren in Western world are acutely aware of what is happening in India. I'm not telling you how much I watch, but it is news from Hindu paper and news from industry. We are continuously watching and monitoring. We have appointed somebody with the help of Zahir Bhai, a guy called Mark Thomas, who is creating new stories. We have a website. We are continuously doing whatever we can within the resources available. But with you together, inshallah, we will do better. We can do better. Taking the case to United Nations has happened already. In General Assembly, there will be a resolution against hate, and not against India. We are very careful not to malign my motherland. To me, India is our Matrabhumi. We respect our motherland, but anything that motherland does on its own children can be debated in world for us, and we are doing it, inshallah.
Inshallah. Dr. Saab, I would like to call brother Javed Bhai. He will be announcing our next webinar by Samir Siddiqui, IAS coach. Javed Bhai.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dr.
Walaikum
Saab,
assalam.
Bashir
Yes, sir.
Bhai, Jazakallah khair for really insightful discussion. And, this is something which is, just one second. This is this debate will go on, because we are looking back at things, and we are trying to actually understand how things happen. So there will be different perspectives, different way of looking at things. So my take on this basically is what can we do now at this stage? Given what happened, we don't have control over it. So what can we do in this stage to make things better? Because on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask us, what did you do? What was there in your power? Rather than what had happened in the history. So we cannot change the history. We can always change now and in the future by contributing positively. So we are really excited to work on such causes, noble causes. And inshallah ta'ala, something good will come out. And Jazakallah khair for amazing effort you have been doing. May Allah give you good health and continue these efforts. So,
where are you based?
Oman. I'm based out of Oman.
Allah bless you, sir. You're a good team. I would love to visit you soon, inshallah.
Inshallah, you're most welcome.
And we are hoping to organize a number of seminars in London. We have invited Mehdi Hassan in October, hopefully, to have and of course, invited Arundhati Roy. Just had a response from Shashi Tharoor that he won't be able to make it, but we have formidable number of contacts in India and worldwide. And we have woken up to realize that we can do a lot together, not alone. And if Omani brothers and sisters and all of us work together and find resources to say, for example, a seminar, a webinar involving Mehdi Hassan cost us nearly $5,000 because it doesn't come free. We require resources, intellectual resources. We need to create a library. All incidences in India should go on a folder. And Zahir Bhai is doing that, alhamdulillah. We have retained a law firm. Sorry, we have retained a media firm. Please Google it and see for yourself, called TM Media. TM Media.
Okay.
And they are running our website, or helping us run our website. We are also campaigning to have hate mail deleted. We are also campaigning to have put positive in where there is negative. So it's a big task. If you Google Core AIM, CORE Core AIM, you will see our work. It's a very initial stages. We have made a start.